Good evening. This is Attorney Vince Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. And I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Darren Guy, all the way from the state of Maine. Mr. Guy, how are you?
Mr. Davis, we're doing all right. We're dry up here in Maine. How are you doing? You guys got a heck of a day ahead of you, or had a day, huh?
Had a heck of a day. It's sunny right now and warm.
Oh, wow.
It never did get cold, even when it rained.
just torn out Athens, California, and that's it?
Yeah, that was it. We have a special guest tonight. I see Mr. Lon Meeks. Mr. Meeks, how are you?
I'm all right. I generally go by Brandon, but Lon Meeks is my legal name. It's Lon Brandon Meeks.
Okay, Brandon. Where are you coming to us from?
Temple, Texas. And it's hot as hell here. It's 105 here today, 107, something like that.
How far are you from Dallas?
Dallas is about an hour and a half to 2 hours north, depending on what part you go to. And Austin is about 45 minutes to an hour south. I was born in Austin, but I've never lived there because I cannot afford to.
Oh, is it that expensive?
Oh, yeah. Austin's pretty expensive unless you want to go there broke. Then they got a pretty good support system for homelessness there.
Okay. So I guess CPS is active where you are?
Yes. I mean, honestly, like this may be not that great. I mean, I heard your intro, but like CPS entered my life and they exited it just as quickly. You know, I showed them how perfect things were in my life. The lady complimented me that my house was nicer than hers and went on her way. My problem is I'm a victim of contract fraud. My kids were stolen through contract fraud after my wife had an affair with an attorney by the name of
no names.
Okay.
No names.
Okay. I'll keep the names out of it. Okay, so my ex-wife had an affair with her boss, who was an attorney, and then his attorney or his attorney friend handled mine and my wife's divorce, and I thought it was an amicable divorce. I didn't know anything about the friendship and the affair and none of that. So like whenever everything happened, I signed my documents willingly, thinking we had an amicable divorce, but then they changed the document.
Tell him about why you signed those papers.
I signed the paper. Okay, so I signed my rights away to my daughter because my wife had lost her child to a man that was not even related to her son because he had a lot of clout in the Navarro County court system because his family was like just deeply immersed in the community because they ran like the largest daycare there. But anyway, so she lost her son, and then prior to conception, before we, I manually removed an IUD from her so that we could have a baby, like fully planned child, with full expectations that if we ever did separate for any reasons, then I would sign my rights away. But I was never to be excluded from my daughter's life. One, so that no new woman could suck my brains out of my balls and convince me that she's a better mother and take custody away. And then two is I didn't want to be a damn 70-year-old man trapped in the child support system. I wanted to be a part of my kid's life, or I didn't want to have a kid. Like that was our agreement. And then my only protection from her running off with my kid was my ability to publicly shame her afterwards if she didn't follow her into the deal. And then she ended up having the affair, stripping me my rights to I signed my rights away to my daughter, but then she took her away from me, vanished, and then used falsified information to gain protective orders and charges to silence me from exercising my right to chastise her publicly forever for taking my daughter from me.
Let me ask you something, Lon. Did you think of this strategy all on your own?
I felt like it came natural. I watched a whole lot of dads get put in positions to where the civil court system was just unjustly beating the shit out of them. Like Paul Elam is one of my main guys I listen to. I got a lot of respect for what he says. I know that he can be crass or whatever, but I still feel like there's gold in the middle of the crassness. But it wasn't a strategy. It's just like we both had lost our kids to our exes. She lost hers to a man that wasn't even related to hers. her wasn't even related to the kid. He signed the birth certificate so that he could gain the benefits of the U.S. military for having a child, basically just scamming tax dollars. And then whenever they parted ways, he was paying her like $800 a month. And then in return, if he took custody of the child, then he got to keep that $800 a month, and she would now owe him $300 a month. And I talked to the guy on the phone. He said he would sign his rights away to the kids, but his parents would look down on him if he did.
So what do you do if you, so for anybody that wants to use this great idea, what is there any ways of getting out of that, Mr. Davis, once you sign your kids away?
Even though I was put in the place through extrinsic and intrinsic fraud. They lied to me. They pretended like they were my friends all the way up until the day I signed the document.
But at the end of the day, who you signed those rights away? So it doesn't matter who, what, when, where, how, or why.
Right, but that's it. I did something because I thought that everything that was being presented to me was right. They committed the crime of fraud. So once I do something outside the bounds of law, after the fraud has been committed, it's just like if someone breaks into your house and you shoot them in the face, you didn't commit murder. You were defending yourself. So everything that I do after that, like they committed fraud initially by telling me what was in a document wasn't what it was in a document. I have a 40-minute conversation recorded with her attorney saying how everything was going to be laid out prior to seeing the judge. Like, and then I got the transcript of the court hearing that I wasn't notified of because they served an address they knew I didn't live at so that I wouldn't have my day in court. And then they called my name in court anyways, and then the lawyer that I have the conversation recorded with tells the judge that they've come to agreements of the terms, and the judge signs it without even reading the documents. They didn't even plead for the changes orally or in writing, submitted them to a judge as if the judge knew that everything was agreed upon. And then the judge signed it without reading it because he trusted the lawyer to be submitting valid documents. That's what my thought is, unless they're working together, and then I'm an idiot.
Well,
and which is a lot of people dealing with the CPS stuff.
I don't want to be crass here, but you've signed your kids' rights away for a trust of a woman. I mean, like,
I got you. I'll say I wasn't as much of a misogynist.
You totally signed your rights away by a woman saying she loved you so that you guys could have a passionate moment. Let's be honest. So that'll be said.
I will take that. I'll say that I was very blue-pilled prior to this situation. I'm very red-pilled.
Entrepreneurs in cars?
Yes.
Hey, I know I messed up, but I was tricked. I mean, to me, I went around the planet since this situation happened, asking people a pretty simple question. Would you much rather be raped or have your child stolen from you? And you have no idea about their safety? Everybody picks rape. My child was stolen from me through contract fraud. I have no idea about their safety, and they committed the crime that was worse than rape.
Hey, Lon, do you watch that channel, Entrepreneurs in Cars?
No, I haven't seen it. I don't watch much anything. Like, I pretty much wrap my head up in my own bullshit, write my own books, or, I got 4 chapters of a book written.
You were talking about red pill, blue pill,
Right. I got that actually off like the Joe Rogan network, and I listened to Ben Shapiro.
That's one of the themes of Entrepreneurs in Cars, the red pill, blue pill.
Yeah, I think that the blue pills are the sheep.
Oh man! So, is there any recourse for him when you sign a contract? Sign your parental rights away. Is there recourse for anybody to come back on that?
There is a. I don't know what Texas is, but in California, you could go back to court and argue for your rights and tell the judge how you were bamboozled. And it's up to the judge to decide whether to use his or her discretion to give you some type of relief. He's just told us a summary of what has happened. I'm sure there's more to the story, both favorable and maybe unfavorable that he hasn't gotten into. But, that's how cases are. But one of the things if you were doing this without an attorney, I mean, you were fraught with this backfiring on you.
That to me what I say is, if someone's missing legs, we build a ramp for them to get into the building. If someone can't hear, we put up braille signs, or not braille, whatever, for blind, we put up braille, like audible stuff for blind people. Like we do things to help people with disabilities. Well, having not enough money in our society is a disability. I don't have enough money to hire a lawyer. I work 18. My best paying job is $20 an hour. And what does a lawyer cost? $375 an hour. So I pay my taxes towards these civil court systems and stuff, but I don't have the ability or money to utilize this multi-million-dollar complex that's right here in my town. That's just the dumbest thing from a poor person here. And anybody that's got any kind of, if you got the ability to hire a lawyer, sure, you're set, you're good, no worries. But to me, thinking of how much it would cost me to battle the story I'm looking at, it's like $100,000. I got 3 attorneys that are against me. 3 attorneys that are all in cahoots together. 2 of which graduated their top of their class in Oklahoma City. And now they're all tied to the Freemasons. And that's not just conspiracy theory. They actually are in the Freemasons.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that was something my wife warned me about before all this stuff happened.
Well, there you go. You were warned.
Hey, Lon, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing with us. Our guest, who was having some technical difficulties, has popped up, and she's in the green room. I'm going to let her in. If I were you, I would find a lawyer, make some calls, somebody, discounted prices, maybe pro bono, that's going to help you.
That's the thing, is I'm looking for my Aaron Brockovich. That's what I always tell people. I'm looking for my Aaron Brockovich.
And you might find it. But you got to look, right? And you got to run that motion for the fraud.
This is me looking.
Intrinsic fraud.
This is me looking right here, just so you know.
Did you explain the difference with extrinsic and intrinsic fraud to Darren?
Could I?
It said, did you?
I did not.
Okay. I know that you guys sometimes, I guess, talk,
Yeah, I spoke with him once. We just
one of my best friends is a 34-year board certified family attorney. I won't give his name or whatever. He doesn't really want to be online, but
is
him and his wife drove 5 hours to testify on my behalf in Oklahoma because he wasn't certified in Oklahoma. But they drove 5 hours. He had a pulled groin and he was sick as shit. And he had to sit out in the concrete in the vestibule because they don't have enough seats for people to sit on. It's disrespectful for a witness to come up there and have to sit on the floor because they don't have seats.
Yeah.
But anyways, him 34-year board certified family attorney right here in Temple, Texas, and drove all the way 5 hours to Durant, Oklahoma. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's hard to find an attorney in that area, and to hire an attorney that's 4 hours away from somewhere costs twice as much. Sorry, you can go ahead and get on with your next guest though. But I mean, I really wish, there's so many angles to this. We could literally talk for 4 hours. It seems like y'all are sort of like hold me accountable to what I do, but I already hold myself accountable. But I'm just fighting for my freedoms at this point. I just want to talk about what they did to me.
Very good. Okay, well, you know what? Contact Grace and maybe we can bring you on and maybe devote a show to you. See what happened to you and see what happens when you don't have a lawyer.
Get a hold of me through email and I'll send you some videos you can watch before the interview to sort of get a grip of what's going on.
Okay, Mr. Lon Meeks, thank you again for joining us.
Hey, where do I get a copy of this?
Grace, get in touch with him.
Thank you.
He can come back and maybe we can devote the show to him. All right, I'll see you later, Lon. Bye-bye.
Later. Sorry for overstepping you, but I got a lot to say.
No problem.
All right, y'all have a good night.
All right.
Wow. All right.
I thought he said he was from Texas because he was talking about Oklahoma.
Yeah, well, something was about the borders. I don't know. The guy was rambling on, and then when you just said that, I was to talk to whatever, and she said whatever. But yeah,
Okay,
there's something about the border and Oklahoma, and this, that, and the other. I don't know. So
now we have someone by the name of Candace Edwards. Do you know Candace?
I do know Candace. Candace has been on your show before.
Okay, because I can't see the picture really well. And where is she? Oh, yes, of course she has. How are you, Candace? I'm not a good lip reader.
No, not reading good
I'm
lips.
sorry, I didn't realize my mic was muted. I apologize.
No problem. So how are you this evening?
I could be doing better, but I'm here.
Good. So what's going on this evening?
So I have actually found some major issues on with my case, and there's several directions that goes on with my case. We've got a national security issue going on with there being somebody else's social security number being in my case. This woman is actually dead.
Keep going. I have to do something.
And then, okay, so we got this woman, she's dead. And then you got an issue where there was a legitimation done. I don't know if I'm sure he's familiar with what a legitimation is, but for those of you who are unaware of what a legitimation is, it's where the biological father, the biological father and mother aren't married, and they do a blood test pretty much to show that they're the biological, or a DNA test to show that they are the biological father of that child. Well, the man who was supposed to do the adoption of my case, there wasn't an actual adoption. It was actually just a legitimation. All through the paperwork, there's nothing but false documentation. It actually states that I was actually born in Alabama, but I wasn't even born in Alabama. My New York birth certificate is actually in these files. This case is still open, and it's a 20-year-old case that goes back actually to my adoption, to where I was in the foster care system. DHR has completely illegally adopted my child out to her abusers. They legitimately kidnapped my child, which the kidnapping, where that comes into play, is because I was falsely arrested for possession of a forged instrument. DHR came in 8 days after the fact that they actually got custody of my child, did not tell me about the shelter care hearing whatsoever. I wasn't able to hire an attorney. I wasn't able to speak with the judge or anything like that. There's all kinds of violations. There's all kinds of perjury going on. I've actually got the social worker herself in perjury on a piece of paper, black and white. I've got proof where the only thing that I had contact from Etowah County Department of Human Resources is actually the jail thing, where it shows what kind, what mail came in and out. It shows one thing, and it was actually, like I said, 8 days after the fact that they had already got custody of my child. It wasn't even 24 hours from the time that they seen my child to the time that they have this shelter care hearing. You're looking from 8:15 p.m. on December 5th, 2019 to December the 6th, 2019 at 3 p.m. is when they have the shelter care hearing. So there's no 24 hours notice whatsoever. I mean, regardless of the fact of me being incarcerated, which was a false incarceration, I've got a federal class action lawsuit against Randolph County due to debtor's prison. It's retaliation. I've found where the judge in my case, he's actually the chairman of Etowah County Children's Policy Council. Tiffany Smith, she's the DHR worker. She's not my worker, she's somebody else's, but she's the vice chairman. You have my social worker, she's the secretary of this committee. And you have the other judge on my case, Will Clay. He's also another member of this same exact committee. Now, I have actually connected the Children's Policy Committee to the Children's Trust Fund, and from the Children's Trust Fund to the Children's Global Alliance, which is your children's trafficking ring. They railroaded me. They're trying to double jeopardy me right now for a case that happened before all this.
Candace, slow down. Number one, we're not going to mention anybody's name, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
Number two, can I be honest with you?
Go ahead.
Have you ever heard the term flailing?
No, but
Let me
case, I feel like
Let me tell you what it means.
Mm-hmm.
It means moving 100 miles an hour in every direction and going nowhere. You're flailing.
I can agree to a certain.
Hold on a second. So at some point in time, I'm going to recommend you to take a step back and stop and decide on a strategy with the help of a lawyer. What state are you in?
Alabama.
the help of one of the good old boys down there in Alabama, and come up with a strategy and implement that plan. Because
So I'm having issues
hold
with
on a
that.
second. Hold on a second. Because
Okay.
all the stuff you're mentioning, even if it's true, will probably not help you get your children back. Okay? Because if it was true, and let's say assume that it is, you'd have your children back. And right now you don't. So who cares about all of the corruption that you found? Because it's not going to help you get the children back. You're either going to have to do one of two things. Number one, you're going to have to file a lawsuit, a civil rights lawsuit, preferably in federal court, to come up with a plan to sue CPS and all those involved in the wrongdoing, which, by the way, is hard to do, right? It's not easy. It takes money, takes time, all that kind of stuff. Or you're going to have to come up with a plan or come up with a plan to get your kids back in the state court system in Alabama. Unfortunately,
I have a federal class action going on right now against
that going?
Randolph.
How's that going? How's that going?
It's the president case, actually. It's against debtors prison.
Okay.
I have a protection order against the judge, the clerk, the magistrate, and the sheriff of Randolph County.
What is your case number? I'm going to look it up on Pacer.
C13. Hold on.
Hey, Grace, write this case number down. And then text it to me later. I'm going to look it up on Pacer. For all of you that don't know, in our federal court system, anything that's filed in any particular court regarding any particular case is recorded on something called Pacer. So you can look up the case, get a copy of all the court orders, the minute orders, pleadings, everything that was filed. So I'm going to look up Candace's case and see where it is.
Is that only federal court cases on Pacer?
Well, for Pacer, it's nationwide, but there are similar things in state court systems all across the country as well. Now, it used to be, some states or counties were a bit more technologically advanced, but now technology is becoming so cheap that almost everybody has it. And if they don't have it, it's like you're living in the Stone Ages.
Or in a studio in Maine that sometimes has good internet.
You're either living in the Stone Ages or in Maine. You absolutely
right. So, this case is
hold
actually
on. Stop. Give me the case number, please.
Okay. It is case number 3:17-CB-321-WKW.
Okay. How long? When did you file that case?
This case has been going since 2017. They just lifted the stay in my case. We was waiting on the Coleman County case, who apparently was a very similar case to mine. However, I guess there were some differences in it. They was waiting on the decision that they made in their court hearing, and they actually filed a writ of certiorari to Supreme. Supreme Court actually denied it. So they lifted the stay in my case.
Is your case in federal court?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I definitely want to look up your case and check it out. Have you gotten any remedies or results, positive results, after you filed that federal civil rights lawsuit?
They actually released me out of jail, and like I was stating, my case is about the bail bondsman, the debtor's prison.
How does that relate to CPS?
Because they actually tie in together. That case was going on first before the CPS case came in.
Their CPS case came in when they put her in jail.
Yeah, when they kidnapped me, I was kidnapped. I was trafficked.
By
Yes, they're
who?
big words, and I understand that. However, when you go looking at my case, you'll find where it legitimately states that I was unlawfully arrested. We did a Rule 32 petition, stated that I wasn't even in the Alabama state guidelines to even have a prison sentence. So what the judge actually did is he lessened my sentence from 22 months to 7 months, 10 days, credits 12 days. The order actually states that I was in fact released May the 6th. However, my prison release records state that I was actually released June the 11th, which is a month and 5 days later than what I was supposed to be released. Okay, give it 30 days for processing. You're still looking at 5 days over, not to mention I was never supposed to be in. I didn't have enough prison points. I didn't have enough against me for me to ever be in prison. This was my first commercial crime. There's no injured party. I mean, it's not even a crime. I mean, it's $75. I now have a felony on my background for $75. They're currently double jeoparding me. By that, what I mean is because while I was in the county waiting to go to prison, I was waiting to actually do a probation revocation. I had gained another charge, destruction of government property. They had to let go of this charge because they didn't give me a time to refute this charge. When you're on state probation, they're supposed to give you an opportunity to refute any new charges. Not to mention, even with the probation revocation violation on probation, and this being my very first violation, I still didn't have enough to even go to prison. I should have never went. I've never been in trouble.
And then CPS comes in immediately and snatches up her kid and then takes her kid and terminates her rights, everything without her being involved.
How they actually get my child, Mr. Davis, is because the people she was with, they were in the process of becoming foster parents, okay? DHR had to come to their home to do a home study. There was no police call. There was no CPS call, no search warrant, nothing. Absolutely nothing. They get there to do the home study. They see my daughter. They question about me, find out that my prison sentence is 22 months. Seems kind of ironic to me, considering it takes 22 months to terminate parental rights.
Have your rights been terminated?
They've illegally adopted her off to her abuse. Yes.
Did you appeal the termination of your parental rights?
I didn't have an attorney. There's fraud upon the court all throughout the paperwork. I mean, I've got it piece by piece. I could show you everything in my case. Like my case is void ab initio completely. It's void and null. This is what the problem that I've had with this whole situation is because of the fact this judge, he shouldn't have went further in this case, considering the fact, one, I didn't have an attorney on my behalf. Two, I didn't even notify him to let him know what was going on. I couldn't. DHR did not notify me until 8 days later. That's kidnapping, complete kidnapping. I have recordings where I've actually reached out to Montgomery DHR and told them, I said, hey, Etowah County Department of Human Resources kidnapped my child, turned around, called the FBI. FBI came out to my house, seen the pictures of the abuse of my daughter. The very last visitation that I had with my daughter, she had a black eye, a bruise up underneath her chin that looked like something was wrapped around her ankle and looked like blood was on her underwear. They came out to see that, and that was it. They didn't look at nothing else in my case. Yeah. On top of that, when she was a month and a half old, okay, I had a legal binding document that was handwritten, hand signed, and notarized, giving physical custody to Sandra Kiker because they tried to do a medical kidnap, even though my child remained in my custody this whole entire time. This was supposed to be like a safety net for me and her. That way DHR couldn't get involved. And they railroaded. They stole my child. I've got it on recordings where they said they don't even have to have a search warrant to come into your house to get the child. It's on recordings that DHR workers, not DHR workers, but the foster parents don't have to have a license. And I know for a fact that's false. I've got rules and regulations downloaded. I've got notebooks. I've personally, I've done my homework.
What do you do, Mr. Davis, when you go to jail? What are rights that people have when they go to jail? Because we don't ever really talk about this. And DHS steps in and then they start these investigations on people.
What do you mean? What do you do?
Well, what do you do? I mean, what are your rights as far as being incarcerated for if DHS steps into your life?
They're supposed to
you
have
make
visitations.
you make alternate arrangements to have someone care for your child so that DHS or CPS doesn't have to step in.
I did that. That's what that legal binding document was about. On that document, her address is Anniston, Alabama. Where my daughter was at, she was in Jacksonville, which Anniston and Jacksonville is both Calhoun County. If there was a true need for DHR to be in my daughter's life, which, by the way, they left her at that household. They never removed her, not one single time, except for when another parent had alleged child abuse with their child, which was 2 months prior, 2 to 3 months prior to all this. And I even have the emails where the social worker emailed me and said, hey, we had to remove your child due to allegations of abuse. I mean, the letter that I got when I was in the county, they said, hey, we got custody of your child. There's absolutely nothing you can do. Contact us when you get out. So when I get out, I contact the now adopted parent. She contacts the social worker and says, hey, she's out. Can she have a visitation? They say, no, can't do no visitation. She said, okay, well, what about phone calls? Well, since she was in prison and was given phone calls then, I guess we kind of still have to keep those phone calls going, but limit those phone calls. This happened, I got locked up November 25th of 2019, okay? They got her December the 5th. I was, like I said, released June the 11th, 12th, somewhere in there. I contacted them maybe a week after getting out of prison, trying to figure out what to do about my situation. And that's when she finally said, well, we have to have an ISP, but she needs to call me, but have her call me tomorrow. I don't feel like dealing with her crap tonight. I reported that to the Montgomery. I mean, there's all kinds of violations. I can tell you right now, I've written over 107 violations of statutes, codes.
But Candace, let's assume all this is true. So what? What are you going to do? Yeah, what are you going to do?
Go after the courts. I'm not fixing to let these people sit here and say, oh, just because he's a judge, he can do whatever he wants to do. He has to be held accountable just like everybody else. The most important part that everybody needs to look at is the sheriff. It's the sheriff's responsibility to make sure each and every inmate has due process, meaning a procurement or a grand jury trial.
Hey, Candace, do you have an attorney?
I don't. Everything I know, I take that back. I have an attorney, yes, but it's for the bail bondsman. It's the SPLC, the ACLU, and the Civil Rights Union. They refuse to take my case because they don't have enough resources in that area. But yet they do human trafficking cases, litigation. I found it online. I've done all my research, FOIAs, pictures, recordings. If I knew how to do the paperwork, I'd do it myself, which I've looked up, and trust and believe, I've got paperwork written up as a thick folder, this thick, if not thicker, of stuff that I've went and I've done my own motions. But I guess you can say it's more lack of self-confidence. Even though I've done my studying, I'm not a lawyer. I don't go to school for policy and procedure, but I've studied law. All of it.
Understood. Gary, do you have any questions or for?
Oh, I was just talking about the whole, like when you go to jail, like because there are a lot of people that either if they're put into jail for, they say they get arrested on a Friday night and they get, put in for drunken driving or whatever, and DHS or CPS or whatever comes in their life. So, I mean, isn't there somewhat laws or rules that need to be gone by to protect them from their children? I don't know. I'm just asking you, like, where can you go with that? Because I mean, obviously there seems like a bunch of unfair things in Candace's case, but at the same time, she didn't know what her rights were or what they could be or not or whatever. So like you said, you make sure that it doesn't happen. But what happens if you're picked up on a drunken driving or something like that and you go to jail? Is there anything other than call an attorney first, obviously?
Is there anything what?
Well, is there anything else parents should do that they should know to do, that they should pay attention to, or besides not getting in trouble, obviously?
Call an attorney and call grandma to come get the kids.
Well, see, I was adopted out of the foster care system. My biological family lives in New York. I tried to get my children's grandmother to get custody of her. She was willing. They had the money. They had the housing. They have 2 of my other children. Should have went to them, but they denied me. Not one time was I ever able to go to a single hearing. Not one time did they ever notify me of a hearing. I didn't meet my judge until the TPR. Didn't even know who my judge was. I mean, there's all kinds of fraud upon the court that I can prove. And the whole situation with the legitimation, what I was telling you about, that.
But what gets your kid back, Candace? What do you need to do to get your child back?
But that's what I'm saying. There's so many different avenues. I don't know what to do.
Well, there she went.
I've got my responding back from the IRS. They're looking into the cases. I did 5 3949As and 5 211s. It's organized crime completely to the fullest. What do you do when your case is a RICO, racketeering, organized crime? And that's a lot of our cases.
Treading on uncharted waters, I guess.
Hey, Candace, once again, I want to thank you for being on this evening, sharing your information with us. We do wish you luck. And if you want to come on again, please let Grace know, and she'll make arrangements, okay? I'm really interested in, now that the stay is removed in your case, what's going to happen.
As far as I know, they're supposed to be having a meeting. The next time they're supposed to be coming back together is in September. I know we've had to do like a lot of reports, like the sheriff's had to, just kind of checking in on the case and everything. One of the things about my case, they didn't have OR. In the small Podunk County, if you don't have the money to pay for your freedom, which by the way is illegal, then you're stuck in there. So really it's about the poor versus the rich. Right. You got the money, guess what? You get out. But if you don't have the money, you lose every single thing that you have.
Candace, how long has it been like that, the poor versus the rich?
As long as I've been born, and I'm 35.
Long before you. Long before you. Again, thank you, Candace.
Yes, sir.
Good luck to you. Keep us posted. All right?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Mr. Guai, before we sign off tonight, any questions, comments? And by the way, where is that Deidre?
You know what's funny is she didn't respond to that text when I was checking on you guys earlier. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't notice that.
Oh, well, I did. Yeah, she didn't get back. I'm glad that you don't have a cast on. I was kind of worried that you had fallen in. Your picture with you limping with the cane was pretty funny.
Well, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. You sent me a nice little picture of you with a cane saying, "I'm here." You have a cast on your leg.
Oh, you mean the cartoon?
Yeah, the cartoon that you sent me. Yeah, you have actually a body cast on.
Yeah.
No,
right,
I just
No
We're good.
comments, no questions?
No, I don't know. I don't even know where to go on these. See, there's so many of these people out there that just spit out these stories, and like I feel bad for people, but people need to also accept the responsibilities of what they're done and do the right things in these cases. That they need to contact a lawyer. They got to insert foot in mouth. They've got to, because there's a lot of problems with, because these people are giving people false hope. They're giving them false beliefs. They're giving them false, like, let's go attack this and attack that. Well, you can't, like this court, you tell it all the time, man. And it's just be real with the truth and be real with yourself, like,
Right.
that's just it.
All right, Mr. Y, I'm going to wish you a good night, and we'll see everyone tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. All right? Good night.
Mm-hmm.